Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our live LinkedIn this morning. What I'm going to be covering, if you're a small to medium business, and small to medium business is defined by many different people in different ways. Large businesses are defined for more than 1,000 employees. So the way that I look at small to medium businesses, whether you're a startup or you've got 10 employees, but up to 1,000 employees, and beyond 1,000 employees, we look at it as large business. One of the things, if you want to grow your business, the question becomes, I cannot do it all. And you become the bottleneck in the growth of your own business, particularly when you're in startup phase, but also it happens whether you've got 50 or 60 staff. And each level or stage of growth that we want to get into, that next level of growth, one of the things we find ourselves is a little bit stuck there. So what is the process that we can use in terms of being able to outsource? So I just wanted to share with you a couple of ways that you may be able to work out where you start, what you do, and this is just as relevant, and you would repeat this exercise in the different stages of your growth in your business. So the first thing is you really want to take about an hour or 90 minutes of your time. I find that the best way to do this is just opening up a blank Excel spreadsheet, and in the first column, you just write the heading tasks and you start brainstorming all the key tasks that you do. And these key tasks may be your one-on-one meetings with your team. It may be, you might be the client-facing person, and it might be putting proposals together. So you want to just do that. Now, you might not be able to do that in one sitting. So one of the things you might be able to do is start that list and come back to that. And again, we're not trying to get every single task that you do. We just want to focus here on the key things. So 95% of your tasks, the things that are repetitive, whether they're repeated daily, weekly, monthly, but that are all the tasks that you currently do as the business owner. In the second column, one of the things we want to do is we want to start assessing each of these tasks that you've written down, and you can always add to it later. But we want to start assessing these tasks into what I call low payoff activities or high payoff activities. And for every business, what is your low payoff activities, or let's call it LPA, or high payoff activities, or HPA, will be different. And so in your business, for example, you need to sort of say, what are the activities that you do that have a high payoff? So for example, in my business, when I'm doing client meetings, then that is a high payoff activity. When I'm looking at emails or my diary management, that is a very low payoff activity. So, you do that, but it doesn't actually bring the growth of your business. And sometimes that growth of your business gets bogged down, not by the big stuff that you do, not by your HPAs, but often your LPAs or your low payoff activities. So what you want to do is you want to take a little bit of time and look at each one, and you might find that some are a mixture, but most of them will either sit in an L or a H. Now, for people that get really lost between the low payoff activities or the high payoff activities, the other question and the other way to answer that is I say to them, just stick to low, medium, high, LMH. And in that second column, the question you want to ask is that helps you grow? Yes, emails and reading them will help you grow, but really in the scheme of it, if there was somebody else doing it, they could probably perhaps do it just as good or a little bit not so good as you, but that would create a lot of space and time in your diary. So what we're trying to do is just determine each single one. For some businesses, one of the things I know one of my clients shared with me recently is that they don't love doing all of the one-on-ones with their team each week. So they do with about 9 or 10 direct reports in their business. They've got a business of about 100 staff. But it is a really important part for the retention of their people, but also the growth of their business. So that would be for that person, whether they love doing it or not, having their one-on-ones with their 9 key direct reports each week, which take between half an hour to 45 minutes each week, determines the pace and the success of the business and is a very important high payoff activity for the growth of their business. For them, some of for example, the contracts of the people and putting some of the administrative side for the people, for them in their role, it's not that the business doesn't need to do it, but they don't need to do it, was an LPA. So determining this, the second column is so important in this process, and you want to take your time, but you don't need to spend hours on it. You will find that intuitively you'll be able to have a gut feel to be able to say, I think this one leans more towards the low paying off activity. And I think this one yeah, this one's about the middle, but if I had to make a decision, this one would lean a little bit more towards the high payoff activity. That's all you need to do. It does not need to be perfect. You just need to get this part done. And then that is a really important part in working out what you will do next and how you will make some of that work. The third column that you want to put together is basically what I call a bit of a thumbs amount of dollars. So in that, how do you determine the dollars? And you start to go, okay, for example, if it's emails, then I can probably get somebody, and you can divide this over 2 columns, for example. You might say, look, I'm a number of hours I spend on that activity. I spent 3 hours on that activity a week. Oh, that's not very much. I probably only spent about half an hour on that activity a week. So in the next column, you could put in the hours. You could put in 0.5 for half an hour, or 0.75 for 3/4 of an hour, or 3 hours, or whatever it may be. And you want to do that just next to the LPA. So you don't have to do that for absolutely everything. You just want to do it across the low or medium or the low payoff activities. So you've got a really good idea in terms of what hours currently out of your diary that would be cleared up, maybe not 100%, but maybe 90% of that would be cleared up for you to do more of the things that allow you to grow your business. And so in that, for example, one of the things that I do in my business that I used to try and do myself, and I was the bottleneck in getting that growth happening. I knew that doing podcasts was a really important part of my marketing and my growth and reach in terms of being able to share with people how to grow their business. I try to do everything myself, and I thought, no, I've got to learn it, and I want to be able to understand it. And I did the first podcast, and then I did nothing for a month. The other thing I had determined in my vision and my goals was that I really wanted to be able to release a podcast every week. I wanted to have that consistency. And I really didn't enjoy or probably have the technical skills to be able to edit things properly, to be able to take time. And it was taking me so much time that I was spending up to a couple of hours per episode editing and uploading it into Apple Podcast and Spotify, putting it on the website. And that became the bottleneck for me. And so in the end, what I did was nothing. I just chose to do completely nothing. And that became the bottleneck. So I looked at how much time it was taking me. And if I was doing an episode a week, it was taking me about 2 hours a week. And then I looked at, if I outsourced that in my 4th column, what would it cost me to hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines so that I could outsource that? And I just went, even at 2 hours, maybe it's going to take them less than 2 hours. But most of the VAs doing that kind of work are between $12 and $15 an hour. So you just go, okay, I'll just take an average. Let me just say it's $13 an hour. So that is going to cost me $26 a week. And as I said, it's probably less than that because the person that's going to be doing it is going to be much faster, and they've got that as a skill set. So that is an example of something that I decided to outsource, and it cleared up 2 hours in my week. When I did that exercise, there were more than 20 items, some that were only 15, 20 minutes, and some that were longer. And I realized that by outsourcing some of them, I can actually gain 1 day a week back to myself. So my question to you is, if you're an SME and you're wanting to grow your business, your time and the way that you go about running your business is the most precious thing. I know that there've been millions of books written on time. I know that there's a lot of conversation that happens about productivity. And productivity is really about getting more done in your day with the time that you have. This task of looking at what you outsource is really determining what are you working on and what you can outsource. And then your productivity is naturally going to go up. And then what you want to do is fill up, whether it's a half a day or a day, whatever you find that you're able to outsource, you'll be able to make a lot more. I can make a lot more money in 2 hours of my week, more than $26, that I'm going to use to outsource that. And again, we're not trying to outsource. Say you have 70 items on your task list that you do, either weekly, daily, weekly, or monthly. I'm not asking you here to outsource, 60 out of those 70 tasks, but they may be 10, 15 tasks that you could very easily outsource. And you can find the right people, whether it's in the country that you live in, or find a virtual assistant. But I always would suggest that if you go down that path and you've got more questions about it, please shoot me an email to shivani@askshivani.com. There's 4 or 5 companies that I've worked with, and I've got some great experiences with some companies, and I can share the names of those companies with you. And I'm more than happy if you want to then make a contact through the contacts that I have and see if they can help you and your business out. If you need to do things locally, you might need to put an ad up, or you might actually be able to talk to your existing staff and see if some of those roles and the tasks could encompass some of the tasks that are low performing activities for you, and to pass it. One of the most common questions I get is, Shivani, I don't want to appear as a business owner that I can't roll my sleeves up and do the hard work. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm not suggesting that we're doing, all the, menial low performance tasks. It's really about the fact that what you're doing is delegating some of the tasks that are occupying you and are a bit of a bottleneck, and your business is stagnant or it's not growing at the rate that you would like. Having you time to think, particularly doing less operational work and more strategic work, is what's going to really drive the performance and the growth of your business. So let me just recapture what we've spoken about. And if you want to do that template, you can always email it to me. I can have a look at that. But essentially, you've got between 3 and 4 columns. So the first column that you've got is listing down all of your tasks, just anything that you can think of. It doesn't need to be 100% of your list, but it's most of the things that you do, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly. Just write them down. And if it's done in an Excel spreadsheet, you can always do the calculations really easily, and you can add to that Excel spreadsheet. Your second column is either you're calling it low performing activity or a high performing activity. I like the word performing in it rather than low, medium, or high, because it really makes me think, is that the best use of my time and my potential? Is that when I'm performing at my highest, being a business owner? And that's the question you need to ask. Now, some of them would be administrative tasks, but some of them might be other tasks around your people, or the way you do your finances, or the way that you run your processes. And you might come up with other people and you think, okay, I'm doing that currently, and it's not because I'm lazy as a business owner. In fact, most business owners are the opposite. Most business owners are working so hard that they really need to have different practices in terms of being able to grow their business. So LPA or HPA will start to determine what are the things that really matter, that are really helping you grow your business. And that doesn't just need to be finance and profit. So profit is one part, but it might be the fact that some of the people things that you do with your people and the key people in your team is a really high performing activity. And you want to have more time to be able to ensure that your people are engaged, that you're able to retain them. Or there may be certain processes that you might want to work on to improve your business. And at the moment, some of them are being bogged down in terms of that. So your second column is all just to determine to do LPA, HPA. People get really stuck on this particular point because they're overanalyzing it. They think they need more data. My suggestion to you is just get it done. Take literally 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and put a H or a HPA or LPA next to it. Use your gut feel, use your intuition. And most of the time, if you're not sure and you go, that's about a bit of both, you go, well, if I had to make a decision, would it lean more towards a high performing activity or a low performing activity? And just make that call and just put that in. The third column, if you want to divide up the hours and the dollars, you would have an hours. How many hours do you spend on it? Is it 0.25, which is 15 minutes? Is it 0.45, which is 45 minutes? Is it 3 hours? And literally go down, but only do that for the low performing activities. All we're trying to determine is how many hours a week are you working on something that's there. And if you've got a task, for example, that you do, once a month and it takes you 4 hours, well, then just put 1 hour down in that column. We're just trying to work out on a weekly basis how many hours you are spending on the low performing activities. And then in the last column, have a look at if there's somebody else in your business that's already there, which means that the dollars in that fourth column would be zero. It might be that you might need to pay somebody a little bit more. It might be that you look at a virtual assistant. And again, if you get stuck on some virtual assistants, email me and I'll send you some names of companies that I've had great experiences with. And you can then contact them and work out what you need. But virtual assistants for some of the work I'm speaking about here, helping with podcasts, doing emails, diaries, are between $12 and $15 an hour Australian. So if you're listening to this overseas, then you use your currency. And, if you're in the US, that's going to be even less. There's lots of companies that are providing those basic tasks that free your time up. And then you just start to do a little bit of training and you start to slowly pass on the LPAs and you start to use that time and schedule in more high PAs. in your business, and that helps you grow. My website is called Ask Shivani. Please ask me any questions at any time. Thank you for joining me. I hope that this live helps you. And if, again, as I said, if you've got any questions, shout out. And I wish you all the luck, all the best for that. And I wish you all the best that you start to grow your business. That's what I'm obsessed about, is to see small to medium businesses where we take so many risks and we have so much stress and all the things that we carry, that we start to get more out of our small to medium businesses and start to make more profit, have great people, and have better processes. Have a great day.